favorite, well, one of y'all favorite topics, and that shit is called Synastry, right? And here I got my whole little presentation down here. Oh look, but before we start, I want everybody to take a look at this shit real quick. Hold up. You know how a lot of astrologers say that they can listen. You can tell a person about what a placement mean all day long, right? But the thing about that is that are you really a good birth chart reader? Do you have real deal results? And I will be making, I will start making like little YouTube clips of my reviews and put them on here because a lot of people have really good information online, but can you synthesize all of those different various components of what you're reading in a birth chart to give accurate reading assessments? Real talk. And that's kind of why I focus in. Oh my God, this McPhee shit, y'all listen. Please ignore this. Lord have mercy, I was doing this shit. But yes, I want y'all to understand that shit though, real shit. So listen. So now listen, just take a look just take a look at some of my reviews, right? So listen. Like this one woman from Instagram said, listen, they're responding off of the things that I said, right? She said, yes, I've actually been in a relationship with abuse, the one I'm in with my currently with my child father. And she said, you so crazy. Yeah, you said I should go to the medical field because I was almost finished. You know, I'm talking about becoming an MA, but y'all can see what she's saying. And like this one over here. Wow, Rex, you were right about my son, his baby mama getting to it, shaking my head. But thanks to you, I was able to save him because he's in there on the couch now. So listen, listen, scroll down, listen. This is a screenshot. I couldn't put all my reviews in there or whatever, but listen, this is a screenshot of all the different reviews, and this is just a little screenshot. Here go another one over here. So yeah, before we get into the video, I want y'all to know, listen, when I do these videos, I'm not just lying. I'm not just pulling something out my ass. I really have to know and understand what I'm talking about to be able to really, you know what I'm saying, pull this shit off. And I am a sidereal Vedic astrologer. And yes, if anybody understands Vedic astrology, you would listen. If you want to hear this part, skip a couple minutes into the video, and then you'll be able to, you know what I'm talking about, get to the point. But what y'all gotta understand is, y'all listen. They say, oh, well, there's no sidereal zodiac. That's false. Sirius Sedunta. I forget what chapter it is, but I do got the actual pictures and verses. I got them saved on my phone. It actually says that when you calculate the lagna, which is also known as the ascendant, right, you have to look at it from the ecliptic and filter that shit through the meridian, right? So that's off top. That's stellar. That's that the ecliptic is where it's not the tropical off the equinoxes or the solstices. It ain't talking about none of that shit, right? So for those out who say, well, I heard this, listen, do your own research. Now we're making a video refuting a lot of these tropical Vedic astrology. Now let's go on ahead and get into it. So listen, if y'all want to DM me for readings, whatever, follow all my platforms and shit. Listen, follow all my platforms. I might they're gonna be in the description, probably way at the bottom. So now let's go on ahead and get into the actual meat of the what's called. So now listen, so this is a birth chart, and this is a birth chart, right? Shit, oh my gosh, you're going so slow. God damn, y'all. Listen. I do not know how to get these goddamn cyber fucking attacks off my computer. It should pissing me off. But listen. So this is a birth chart, and this is a birth chart, right? So now let's talk about synastry, right? So now, what is synastry? So now, synastry is the branch of astrology that examines how the planets and other celestial bodies of two individuals, right, interact with each other. It is often used to understand relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, right? So off the bat, what y'all can see, and you can just read through some of this shit because I want to get straight to the point. Synastry is when I take your birth chart and this person's birth chart, or however many people's birth chart, and see, you know what I'm talking about, how does y'all energy synergize in a healthy way, right? You see what I'm saying? Like you gotta remember, some folks hit me up be like, Kain, I wanna I wanna know. Matter of fact, like like with this young lady right here. Hold on, with this young lady right here. That's one of the primary things she was asking me about. You know what I'm talking about? I read his chart, I read her chart, and boom. You see what I'm saying? So I want y'all to understand this. Y'all listen. The sinister shit is serious, right? So now listen. You got the ascendant. Now remember, this is, and listen, the Ayanamsha that I use, for those y'all who know what it is, I use True Chitra. You can use True Chitra or you can use True Ravati. Or if you want to do some Ernest Wilhelm shit, you can go to the Galactic Equator Mid Mula. Real talk. With the sidereal, right? So now I want everybody to understand. So listen. So what do we look at when we trying to figure out the Synastry birth charts, right? So what you got to understand is this off top. First thing is first, y'all. Listen, you got the ascendants, right? You want to see, okay, do we line up right? Where is your head at? Where is my head at? Right? That's one of the primary things you want to look at when it comes to the ascendant. And now remember, zodiac signs have enemies by default of their planets have enemies, right? So now listen. So now Leo is ruled by the sun, right? But the enemy of the sun is what? Saturn and Venus, right? And so what sign do Saturn and Venus rule? Saturn rules Capricorn, and Saturn rules Aquarius, right? And then Venus rules what? Taurus, and Venus rules Libra, right? Does that mean that you and this person gonna necessarily be enemies because y'all got two different ascendants? No. But what it can mean is that there is some actual going to be some friction regarding what area, you know what I'm saying, that this shit is governing, right? Especially when we merge our charts together, right? So now these are just two random charts. Now these ain't no specific people. What it is just me showing y'all how the shit actually looks. So now this person is a Leo ascendant, right? This person is a Virgo ascendant, right? So you got to remember which person off top is going to be more analytical when it comes to like dealing with the relationship, right? Is more than likely just going off this one aspect is more likely going to be this Virgo person, right? Right? Why do I say that, right? Because Leo can be real smart and shit or whatever, too, right? And listen, trust me, I get it 100%. But you gotta understand is that this is a Virgo ascendant, also with Pluto, right, sitting right there, right? You know what I'm saying? And Uranus, right? So what this suggest? I'm talking about when you talking about like a radical way of like analyzing shit, like they gonna think they a goddamn computer, right? You see what I'm saying? And then now listen, look at this shit. Mercury rules over Virgo, right? Rules over the ascendant, right? Look where Mercury is at. It's in the 8th house, right? Of hidden secrets, right? And it's also with Saturn and their moon, right? So think about it. Their whole entire life is connected right to hidden secrets. You know what I'm talking about? Individualization, communication, learning. You know what I'm talking about? How to go against restrictions. So this person, you know what I'm talking about? Now remember, in Vedic astrology, you have different Varga or divisional charts that go like deeper and deeper and deeper. Like this right here is called the D1 chart in Vedic astrology. This is just the basic primary shit, right? However, when you get into them deeper divisional charts like the D60, the D20, the D12, man, listen, I'm gonna do a video about that shit. Always remember, these regular birth charts aren't you cannot find every single thing. More than likely, you cannot find every single thing out about a person from these regular birth charts, which is why the Varga or the other divisional charts are actually formed, right? Let's say, for instance, y'all got a good signature, right? Like, okay, you compatible with this person, right? Because listen, the sun rules over Leo and Mercury rules over Virgo, and guess what? They are friends, right? You understand that shit? So, but the thing about it is, now let's say everything else in y'all birth chart like lines up. Oh my God, they gonna have a special romance, a special love affair, all type of shit, right? That's just from this chart. But that's what maybe it's supposed to be. But then y'all in real life beating the hell out of each other, talking bad to each other, doing the most to each other, cheating, acting the fool, right? And when you look at the basic birth chart, a person will be like, well, hey, I looked this up online and it said so and so and so and so. What people forget about is the aspects and how much the aspects matter, right? A lot of people don't really know how to read a birth chart correctly, right? So now listen, let's say for instance, right, this person right here has a moon in Aries, right? You might look up the moon in Aries and this person might be like, I don't really act like that. Well, did you look up the moon, Saturn, and Mercury conjunct in Aries with Mars ruling, you know what I'm talking about, over that going into Gemini with Mercury ruling over Gemini going? See, that's how you gotta really it's a lot of thinking that goes into this shit. A lot of analytic shit that you got to actually have and use to be able to really even truly decipher, okay, what your birth chart is. That's why people be like, well, I don't resonate because a lot of times people just don't really truly know what they're looking at or they get half-ass taught. And the shit they get half-ass taught, they feel like that's a lot of knowledge, even though it's not even halfway baked, not even half baked knowledge, right? So now imagine how it's gonna come to Synastry, right? You're gonna be looking at it like, well, we look compatible on the surface level. Y'all might do look compatible if you're not reading it correctly. This is not just a regular Aries moon person. Their moon is being dominated, you know what I'm talking about, by planets that have a higher degree, which are Saturn and Mercury, right? This gonna be a no nonsense ass person, for real, because now you're mixing the energy of intellectual capabilities, with seriousness and restriction, with what I'm talking about, that dynamic, dominating energy of Aries, right? This not gonna be no just regular. This might be, and then this might be a goddamn detective ass Aries person, real shit. This person might want to be getting to involved with careers like forensics, all type of that shit. So it's a lot of ways to look at shit, right? So now let me go back to my what you call it. I want y'all to take a look at this shit. So now listen. Listen, birth charts. Each person has their own birth chart, which is like a snapshot of the sky at the moment they were born, right? So Synastry compares these charts to see how they planets line up and interact, right? So now the point of focus, right? The sun and moon. These are the most significant parts of Synastry, right? The sun represents the core identity. The moon represents emotions, right? Their interaction shows how you connect on both the fundamental and emotional level, right? Then Venus and Mars. Venus represents love, beauty, and affection, while Mars represents drive, passion, and sexual energy, right? Now, this is what I want y'all to really understand this part right here I type. Mercury. Understand this Mercury shit is serious as hell when it comes to the actual birth chart, right? I ain't even got to read this shit. I want you to understand. Mercury is really how you communicate and comprehend shit and understand shit. That sounds like just one of the most prominent placements you should be looking at when it comes to synastry, right? Do this person really understand me, and do I understand they ass? Can we come to some common ground? Do they really get me for real? Do I have to argue? Do I have to fight? Do I have to? That shit is for real. What do people say? Lack of communication all the time. A lot of people, I'm telling y'all, this synastry shit will save you from a lot of crazy ass relationships. Then you have a lot of people that say shit like this, and I'm gonna do a video about this. I don't. Okay, astrology works, but I just don't think it can be seen for everything. That's because you don't know. You don't know if it can or can't, right? You don't even study this shit. You don't know it all. Let alone do you have like this many type of reviews that are completely accurate about peering into the future and current situations and past life things to people, past life, why they like things in the past, why people alive have gone through. You can't really do that shit or confirm that shit a lot of times. Even if you might be a seasoned astrologer, you might be a seasoned astrologist talking about personality base. Read these readings up here. These just two. None of this shit right here is about personality. It's about events that happen or are going to happen. You understand? That ain't got nothing to do with, I think, this no personality shit, right? So when I say these things, I want y'all to know I'm not just somebody who's just on the internet talking and blabbing. And listen, most astrologers, listen, I have almost 200 and something reviews, right? Real talk. So listen, I'm not just on here blabbing, talking, and just saying shit just to be saying shit. People really have to understand, y'all. Listen, that everybody is not just, oh well, I'm no. You really need to understand this shit for real. So now let's go back. So now Jupiter and Saturn, right? So now Jupiter expands and grows while Saturn brings structure and discipline, right? So their interaction can show have both growth and boundaries work in the relationship, right? Then you got the houses, the compatibility, right? Then you got the karmic aspect, right? Y'all like twin flames and shit, right? So twin flames are believed to be two halves of one soul, right? So this is like a theoretical type of thing. I'm really working with y'all with this one. So when twin flames meet, right, it's like reuniting with the deepest part of yourself, right? The connection is intense and often feels like a spiritual mirror. That's why people be like, damn, this person remind me everything about me. When in reality, a lot of people gonna remind you about a lot of shit about you. You just ain't ran across that many people, right? Because what you gotta understand, what a lot of people don't know and fail to realize about Vedic astrology, except for people who study Vedic astrology, the soul inside of you has been in multiple different bodies, multiple different incarnations, had multiple different things, multiple different levels, multiple different every single thing, right? So imagine how many twin flames you might actually have, right? It's twin flame, right? The soul, right? What planet governs over the soul inside of astrology? All astrology. It's always going to be what? The sun, which is the hottest, most fiery planet outside of Mars, right? I'm just listen, y'all know I'm just trying to tell y'all really. So what you gotta understand, listen, I'm talking about like the soul mates or whatever, all that shit. Listen, I'm gonna do videos and all this shit separately, right? But I really want y'all to understand this part right here. Karmic disasters, right? So now sometimes karmic connections aren't so sweet or easy, right? So now these relationships can feel like karmic debts from previous lives and need to be resolved, right? And they often appear as disasters or toxic patterns that keep repeating. These connections could involve a lot of conflict, manipulation, or unresolved anger, right? So a lot of y'all might meet people in. I'm gonna give you a prime example. You might meet somebody in this life. that tried to kill you in the past life, right? And then now you in these abusive relationships wondering like why this person trying to hurt me so bad. A lot of shit that's going on right now stems from the past life karma, right? You see what I'm saying? But in this life it's up to you to take control of agami karma. And I'm gonna do a video about that. That's the karma that you can make now going forward into the future, right? Real shit. So a lot of shit that people really got going on now, all this shit be stemming right from a past life. I'm just keeping that shit above. So now listen, what you gotta understand, listen, you got and so just basic terminology. First house of self, second house of communication. Somebody be I mean speech, somebody be like somebody from tropical be like the second house doesn't rule speech. And y'all shit it probably don't. Even though I study tropical astrology, I believe it does, but the second house in Vedic astrology definitely rules speech. Everything that you see me doing from this point forward, when I'm gonna be talking about Vedic, everything I'm saying actually applies to Vedic, right? I'm gonna give you a prime example. I don't know if tropical says their Sun and Venus are friends or enemies, but in Vedic it say it's about the Sun and Venus are enemies, arch enemies as well too. Damn, they're almost as Saturn, right? So you see what I'm saying? Different schools of thought say different things. So everything I'm going to be speaking of is coming from the Vedic astrological perspective, right? And I do use the tropical planets and what they mean from tropical, like Pluto and Uranus and shit, and I just merge them over into the sidereal Vedic system. That's all it is, right? So now, because every house means a lot of shit. Like the first house rules over a lot of shit. Second house rules over family too. Motherfucker be like, it rule over family and speech, yeah, and the other stuff too. So the second house is speech, right? Look at the second house of speech, right? So I want y'all to understand this. Listen. So when it comes to a relationship, right? Now let's get to some synastry. Let's look at some basic synastry, right? So now this is the second house of speech, right? How a person talks, right? So this person with the Leo is saying that they got this planet called K2, or as y'all tropical people know, South Node, right? And in Vedic astrology, K2 is a malefic planet, right? A planet of like kind of difficulty and hardship, right? So now listen, this person, you know what I'm talking about, in they second house, they have Jupiter, right? A retrograde Jupiter, right, as well, right? But you got to understand, Jupiter rules what? Wisdom, right? It rules wisdom. It rules, you know what I'm talking about, like that cosmic intelligence, right? Expansion, right? But they Jupiter's inside the second house, right? Of Libra, right? So guess what? They probably be really, really big on what? Like balance, right? Like, okay, like fairness, like, hey, listen. They might communicate a lot of times that what the other person is doing wrong. Real shit. They'll be like, hold up, Kain. Uh-uh. Kain, I think you Kain, I think you reading that wrong. Well, how could I possibly be reading it wrong? The second house is fundamentally the house of speech, right? No, I'm not looking at this policy fully yet, but just a retrograde Jupiter sitting inside of Libra. I got Jupiter and Libra in my birth chart. So I'm quick to point out the flaws in other people if I'm in a relationship too. You see what I'm saying? I got Rahu on my shit, right? But now this other person has a malefic, right? So this is a malefic and this is a benefic, right? You see what I'm saying? Malefic and benefic, right? So you got to remember that's already going. Now they might be able to spiritually understand each other, and they may be able to help each other pick it. They may be able to help each other. You know what I'm saying? Even rise in like a certain type of spiritual. You know what I'm talking about? Like aspect, right? I'm trying to say because I know what this should mean. I want to make sure y'all know what the hell I'm trying to tell y'all. Because when K2 and Jupiter come together, now you got to remember from this person's birth chart right here, they're gonna be more about fairness. You know what I'm talking about? Duality, balance, law, and shit. This other person gonna be about like practicality, like I mean practicality, right? So you got to remember, this person might be about like okay, what works best, right? What's more practical? What's more, you know what I'm saying? And even not from an emotional based standpoint, right? Now, this might be from more of an emotional based standpoint. I know you probably gonna be like, oh, Kain, how in the Rex, how in the hell? That's an earth sign. Earth signs don't rule water. Boy, he don't know how to read no birth charts. A lot of y'all don't know real Vedic astrology, right? Because if you start to look in these more, you know what I'm talking about, these yogic sciences, Venus controls Libra, right? But you gotta remember, where is Venus exalted at? Venus is exalted inside of where? The sign of Pisces, right? So what does that mean about Venus itself, right? It has a natural inclination, you know what I'm talking about, to want to actually, you know what I'm talking about, be fair, right? But it's exalted in the emotional sign, right? So Just because it's practical don't mean it's always what's best, right? Like a person could say this. Like I'm gonna give you an example for relationships. Partner A can say, "Hey, I used to have sex with this person and I still want to be friends with them. We're not doing anything. It's just strictly platonic." That's that Virgo practical life. Like, well, there's no emotion behind it. Whereas the person with Jupiter in Libra gonna be like, that's kind of odd, don't you think? Maybe you should look at that in a different way, in a different type of aspect, right? You see what I'm saying? And you got to remember that there's still always, tidbits of that emotional element, real shit. Because you got to remember, the planet that controls Libra is exalted, where it would prefer to be, right? Where it show its best colors is inside of, Pisces, right? So this person might be a little bit more, emotional and logical, while this person might be just strictly like, listen, I'm not worried about none of this shit you talking about, right? It's just hypothetical, right? And there is so many ways to look at this shit, right? Because there's no one way to read a birth chart, but there is a correct way to read a birth chart, right? You see what I'm saying? Because somebody else could look at this and say, well, I think that this placement would do this. I'm like, well, and you could probably see that shit as well, right? Now remember, different placements can also make similar results, right? That's why you can read somebody's birth chart and say, hey, you do this with these placements. And somebody else can see you reading a chart and say, well, you know what? I ain't got the placements and I do the same shit. Astrology must be fake. No, you have a different configuration set up that also produces the same outcome. Real shit, y'all. But yeah, so listen, this is just my Synastry video part one. I just wanted to go live with y'all. Well, I just wanted to come on YouTube, make the video real quick for y'all. And y'all just really sit back and just listen and think of everything that I said. Digest that shit. Real shit. And like I said, listen, y'all won't listen. Y'all think I'm capping about my reviews? Shit. Go follow my Facebook page. The link will be in the actual description, y'all. But until then, I will holler at y'all ass later, man. Peace.